Hey everyone, I went out to the store today. It took me over 2 minutes and I didn't get raped. I didn't even get catcalled or creepily stared at. Hi, I'm Diana Davison, Canadian eliminator of legal feminists. I've been talking about a book written by law professor of Ottawa Elizabeth Sheehy called Defending Battered Women on Trial, Lessons from the Transcripts. This transcript is also from chapter 5, as was the last one. She's comparing cases. Denise Robin Rain killed Donald Alexis on the 22nd of January, 1999. Elizabeth Sheehy is really annoyed with this case, but not for the reasons that you'd think. Denise was acquitted of manslaughter, and Sheehy is upset because she thinks the prosecutor was slacking off. This one's fucking hilarious. Denise and Donald had an on-again, off-again 13-year-long relationship. They weren't living together at the time of the incident. They had 5 kids together, and most of the communication that Denise had with him was regarding child support payments, if he was going to pay them, and if he was going to buy Christmas presents for the kids, things like that. Both of them were violent types of people, and that's part of why their relationship didn't work, and that's why they weren't living together. But the night of the incident, Denise had gone out with her brother-in-law, Dwayne, and he was supposed to be playing hockey, and Donald was also supposed to be playing hockey at the same game. Neither one of the men played hockey, but they did do a lot of drinking with Denise, and they went out to a casino afterwards and then bought some off-sale beer and went back to Denise's trailer. She and Donald seemed to be getting along fairly well earlier in the evening, and they invited Dwayne in to spend the evening with them. Well, things didn't go so well after the door closed, and Denise and Donald started having squabbles and bickering and picking on each other, and it started to escalate to the point where they were getting physical. She kicked his chair out from underneath him. He raised his fist in the air like he was going to hit her, and then just laughed and scratched his head or whatever, right? And so it was escalating, and they ended up standing up and grappling with each other, at which point Dwayne said, "All right, Donald, let's get the hell out of here. Let's go. Come on, it's time to go home. We're all drunk. Let's just call the evening to an end because this is not fun anymore." And he had almost got Donald out the door when Donald spun around and charged back towards Denise, who was now in the kitchen. She had a knife next to her. She picked it up, and essentially Donald ran into the knife. There was only one stab wound, and the coroner described it as a lucky stab, that it just happened to slip into his body in a way that caused him to die. And Denise, right after she stabbed him, ran out of the trailer, and she did that because she thought that he was still alive. She wasn't intending on killing him, and she was trying to get the hell out of there so that, he didn't start beating on her. And when she realized that he was on the ground and that he was dying, she actually picked up the knife, stabbed herself, and laid down next to him. They lived in a place that was so remote that Dwayne couldn't get through on a phone to emergency services. He managed to get a hold of his wife, who it took her a while to get a hold of emergency services. She kept getting an answering machine, and by the time they finally got out there, Donald was dead. So Denise, in her trial, and she was only charged with manslaughter because they didn't feel that she had intended on killing him, she didn't use the battered woman syndrome at all. There was some discussion of her past and the violence because Donald had been seen throwing her across rooms quite often, actually, and he'd beaten on her a few times that were quite significant. He'd also threatened her in the past and threatened to kill her if she tried to leave him, but they had separated. And these past incidents were brought up in order to clarify that the reason she picked up a knife was because she had reason to think he would start throwing her around the room. In fact, that was part of what the grappling was he was trying to actually throw her, and she'd been successfully resisting him. So there was a witness in this case who corroborated the story of what happened. He said, yes, Donald was charging at her and essentially ran onto the knife. Her 12-year-old daughter had woken up and come out and also said the same thing. She was a child who may have been trying to protect her mother, so it's not as, the quality of that testimony isn't as great. But she had 2 witnesses, and she didn't need the battered woman syndrome because it was actual self-defense. She can't wrap her mind around this. In cases of actual self-defense, you don't need to bring in experts to testify as to your condition and and give testimony for you. Denise actually got up on the stand despite having been convicted of common assault and assaulting a police officer and disturbing the peace in the past. She also didn't have a jury trial because she trusted the judge, or her lawyer trusted the judge, to understand that her past criminal convictions didn't take away from her self-defense plea. And she was questioned quite vigorously by the prosecutor. Because she didn't use any expert testimony and she didn't use the battered woman's defense, she is upset that she got acquitted and other women who have brought in experts in their defense did not. She compares it to the trial of Doreen Sorenson, which is discussed in a video earlier and in Sheehy's book earlier. So let's look at Sheehy's take on this situation. She says, Rain's acquittal against all of these odds might speak to her strength of character and her credibility. It might also suggest an experienced trial judge who's seen enough wife battering to appreciate the risks of intimate femicide that Alexis' behavior presented. Yet the possibility remains that Rain was acquitted because the Crown Attorney did not invest resources in a murder prosecution and because she only killed another Aboriginal person. No, Sheehy. Just no. Not too much earlier in this chapter, she quotes the prosecutor in the trial. He said, Ms. Rain, forgive me if I've been persistent in my questioning. This is a serious matter. A man's life was lost. I know that your loss has been tremendous and that of your children. My apologies if I've seemed abrupt. The prosecutor made it quite clear that the reason that he pressed charges against her was because of the gravity of the loss of life, be it Aboriginal or white, and it had nothing to do with racism. And he made it very clear in that trial that he cared about the life of the dead man. Everything about this trial went the way it's supposed to. And the lesson from this transcript for Sheehy and all of her cronies is that we do not need you interfering because the law can work quite well. Sheehy's comparison to the case of Doreen Sorenson is outrageous. In the case of Sorenson, and I can link to the video about that one below, she claimed, without witnesses there, that he blocked her from leaving the house, and she was afraid, so she grabbed the knife and started waving it around. But the body of her victim showed multiple defensive wounds. The blood trail throughout the house was throughout the house. It started in the kitchen, and there was blood all over a couch, in the hallway, in the bathroom. This was not a simple defensive stab, like the case of Denise. And right after the murder in the Sorenson case, she disposed of the knife in a river as quickly as she could get her little butt out of there, went to a friend's house, and had him help her clean all the blood off of her. Then when the police brought her in, she lied about it, said that she didn't do it. And it was her daughter who forced her to go back into the police station and make things right by telling the truth. Even Sorenson's daughter believed that she was guilty of murder. So to compare these two cases, you gotta wonder, does she even understand Elizabeth Sheehy? Does she even understand the purpose of the legal system? Where she can be upset because a woman successfully was acquitted where she was actually defending herself, and Sheehy is upset. Sheehy's in the business of something, but it's certainly not about justice. So an update on the fundraising for me to purchase transcripts so I can tell you all the stuff Sheehy doesn't want us to know about these trials. I'm not going to buy all the transcripts she did. I have very specific ones that I want to get. And so far, thanks to all the donations, we have almost $1,000. That's probably not enough to buy a transcript, but I do have a request in to find out the cost of the Lavallee case to start with, and I'll find out the other ones. I'll keep everybody updated on the progress and start a Kickstarter campaign once I know what the final price is going to be. So thanks again to everybody who's donating. Thanks for your belief in me, your trust in me for handling the money properly. And yes, I will be transparent with how much has been collected and what it's being spent on. Thanks again. And now for the rape joke of the week. This joke is like a rapist. It's going to score whether you like it or not.